Very humble attitude.
I got to tell you this joke. We can prove you're all not here, okay?
No, boy.
Here's the joke. It's an old Abbott and Costello joke. Okay, we'll run this one. Are you in L.A.? No. Well, are you in Chicago? No.
Better get a Canadian suit.
Are you in? Well, let's get a Canadian suit. Are you in Vancouver? No. Well, then you must be someplace else. Yeah. Well, if you're someplace else, then you're not here.
They themselves in fiction will laugh at and enjoy the humor and the irony that is happening. But just go back to staying on point. It is so important to stay on point. They have no, if you're going to come in there and use truth language, give them authorization to join. They will join with you. They will try the volition of your thinking. Mm-hmm. If your volition can sustain, you will be able to go through the borders. You will be able to travel the planet. And you will take a very humble and honest attitude towards people. We're not here to bash Canada. We're here to safeguard everybody. Give everybody a claim. You know, if you feel that taxes is not your forte, well then, sue them in the truth. Sue them to show you a law so you can perform your obligation. Yeah. And when doing so, it'll be a very much so a learning experience for everybody that is involved in the court, including clerks, because you have to swear in your clerks, you have to swear in the stenographers, you have to swear in your marshals, and you have to pretty much have your own staff there. You have to have your own room, so you have to order such and such through your room and get everything there in unity with time, space, and planes, pretty much. And when you get there, be very...
I'm in trouble. I'm on an elevated plane. See?
Be very confident that whenever you deal with clerks, anybody with a bill of lading, you must use this phraseology from one postmaster to another. If you do not use that phraseology, you will shoot yourself in the foot. So you must use that exact phraseology. If you do not use that phraseology, they're going to bluff you and say, we're not a postmaster. Another thing, all of you people, when you file into the court record, it is only a request to come into court. Why does every attorney in the world beat all of you? Because an attorney has 5 procedural rules, and one of them is he will file it into evidence. You must file your paperwork into evidence so you can come out. We had the privilege of going to your Canadian courts here a week ago. Yep. And they were flying, of course, the Canadian flag, speared on them, denoting we're all under capture, whether we like it or not. That's the way it is. And we come to court, and the people's paperwork was out of order. It was a mess. They were contradicting themselves all over the place. And the judge, of course, was doing a great job of obstructing here. I mean, beautiful. It happens all across the world. Everybody's an obstructor. No one wants to be accountable for anything. Of course, they want to do to all of us, but not be accountable. And so when we come to court, they're always going to deny you that I'm a postmaster. I couldn't be a postmaster. So you physically have to walk them through it and prove to them why they are postmaster. Mm-hmm. I place my authorization through the stamp, making me postmaster, across the stamp. I can't help but notice, and if you notice on the customs, wherever that, the authorization, they have to initial it. They can put their signature, their simulation, but they must place their file stamp over your stamp to put you into joinder. And I could go on and on about procedures, but we're not giving too many procedures. We're telling lots of court stories. So.
Yeah. Could you just finish you mentioned the attorneys have 5 procedures.
Yeah, about
they
5.
They have more. But one key one is when you file your paperwork and you pay your fee. Now, some courts, they don't require you to pay a fee. Now, that's in and of itself an interesting little trick, because if there's not an exchange in commerce, you don't have enforceable contract. So there's a few things you got to watch there. When you file your paperwork, as Russell said, that's only a request to enter the land of contract, which is the court. When you, in fact, get inside the well of the court, now you are, in the land of the contract. You notice now I was talking in prepositional article noun phraseology. You are in the land of the contract. That is where you must get your contract filed with the evidence sticker and get it authorized. Because now you have, in fact, your paperwork or your claim or whatever it is that you're going in force.
Make sure it's a certified copy also.
And that is a key thing, because if you enter in there without getting that accomplished, then you're actually giving testimony without foundation. It's violation of the rules of continuance of evidence. They're not going to tell you that. That's a trick so they can beat you.
That's why they put all of you Canadians in the little prisoner's box they got there.
They put you in the box.
And have the attorney inside the well of the court, because he files his evidence into the court record. And of course, you do not. So, it will be a very amazing feat when a Canadian can walk into court and get the evidence sticker on there.
It'll happen.
And I will
It'll
personally have a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect for anybody who tries this. I'm doing it. I know you are.
You're doing it.
You're doing it.
You're doing it.
And I have a lot of respect for anybody. In fact, I have a lot of respect for Mr. Mann, who's invited us and asked us to come up here and talk. I understand that the papers have been giving him a bashing, and to look around here and see the to see everybody, different ethnic backgrounds. This man could possibly not be far from a racist. So, kudos to Mr. Mann.
Yes. Okay.
How do you eliminate the law of boxing with regards to getting into that box when you're giving evidence?
You can't. You can't really. What you must do is anytime that the question is, how can you eliminate the rules? So Ken.
Yep. Look, I'll pick this one up. He says, how do you deal with the issues of boxing within the court? Well, anything within the box, it's called an interpolation, is removed from the plane. Like, okay, now I'm standing up here, I'm on an elevated plane here, I'm on a different plane of pleading within the well of the court. And so I'm immune unless someone can either capture me, like the old game of capture the flag, or get me where I, by my volition, will join with someone's contract or filings. What we have done in our paperwork is we actually write right within our paperwork that we forbid the boxing and those tricks and traps that they want to use to be able to negate your position. As you become experienced, one of the things that I would strongly suggest, anyone who's using this, take the time when you have time to go sit in your courts and observe when you're at no risk, when you're not under pressure, and sit and watch. Take a look at how the courts are laid out. Study why they are laid out that way. Watch what's going on, and then figure out why things are being done the way they're being done. There's reasons for all of these things. And that way you can have an idea of now how you need to proceed through this maze and through the tricks and the traps, irrespective of what they throw in your way, so you can achieve what you're wanting to achieve.
I'll give you guys an analogy. We come to federal court, and the man that we come to court with isn't a very responsible person.
Yeah.
He is an anarchist all the way. And he's my friend. But I'm there to protect the court. That's my first and only motto, is I'm going to disqualify my own people, unfortunately, because they have no sense of what they're doing. Truly. You have to flat know it. And the man comes to court and he files in a cross-claim, and he piggybacks his claim on the United States of America's claim. Well, the man comes into court, identifies himself in the noun, claims Title IV, and goes, Your Honor, he's speaking in quantum. And the judges acknowledge, this is what we call quantum speak. But the intimidation factor is very high. They bring in about 100 marshals. They sit, Gordon and I, in the second row. They surround us with goons all the way when we come in, trying to push us around. And we're like, hey, from one postmaster to another, you've got no authority, you've got no authorization, get out of my face. They sit two big goons in front of Gordon and I, and instead of watching the court, they turn their chairs around, and they sit right in my face like this.
Well, I'm blind, it don't work.
And then I asked the marshals.
How do you stare down a blind man?
Yeah,
right?
I asked the marshals. Yeah, and I asked the marshals, well, this guy's blind. Are you guys crazy? You can't stare down a blind man. He can't see you. And the intimidation is high. So, of course, the man steps through the bar, and right away, the bum rush, marshals all over the place, right in his mug. Intimidation. And the guy gets scared. And, he's a tough guy. He's a bodybuilder. He's a tough guy, pretty tough. He likes to fight and this and that. So that's why he's an anarchist. I don't quite condone all that. And he locks up. And when he locks up, he goes to jail. Well, they let him out because his paperwork is kind of okay, but he can't prove what he's actually saying. He fails to pay the fee. He fails to do a number of things, but he piggybacks it on the United States. It was on a student loan for like $3,500. So he gets out of jail, or doesn't get out of jail. They let him back into the well of the court. The main thing that I'm trying to point to you is watch the symbolism in the court. It is there for a reason. When we showed back up to court the next, it was 2 days later, they ran, 2 courts in front of them.
Yeah, there was
Two courts in front of them.
Same time.
Actually 3, because there was 3 clerks in there.
Yeah.
What the clerks did to try to fool us, and it did not work, is they would come into the courts as postmasters, good little postmasters, watch for whoever is holding the stamps. They will hold a tray of stamps, or they'll have a tray on a cylinder. Watch for the stamps. This is the person you talk to. Ignore that judge. He has no authority unless you give him authorization. If he identifies you in a noun and says, I'm trying to help you, swear him in. Write up a contract right there. Swear that guy in, and you'll be surprised. If you show good volition and you're an honest person, you'll be surprised. Your best friends will be that judge because he knows it's corrupt, if he's a good judge. Now, I'm not going to say that all the time. Another key is stare them down. They will make high level of eye contact when the pressure's on. When they got the goons around you, you stare down that judge. He will do what we call cowling. He will cowl. He will look away. He will be unsure. You have to be that much in the right to know and sustain your claim. And it is very difficult. Very difficult.
You have to know that you know what you know. And you're letting that judge know that you know what he knows that you know. That's actually what it takes, because there has to, the level of conviction must be this. And this is the reason why this is important. If you have done your homework and you have the knowledge, much of that fear will be removed. And start with small things. Don't go in when you've got a lot of big things. See, there's strategy involved. And it's a learning curve. All of us had to learn to walk or crawl before we could walk, and then we had to learn how to walk well before we could run. That's the same thing with this. And it takes time. It takes a lot of time. I'm with it 5 years now, and we're pretty proficient. But we could go on with many stories.
We come into court.
Yeah.
I'll win. Come into court 3 years ago. I was in. Oh, go ahead. Take your question first.
Sorry, up to right.
I'd like to understand a little bit more about the vitality and the primordial role that the Postal Union plays in all this, because I don't quite understand.
Okay.
Why the stamps and why the postal and why?
Here in Canada, in 1964, the Postal Union and the Canadian government had a contract, and it's a global thing under the Vienna Law of the treaties, authorizing anybody who's a stamp carrier, like Canadian Customs. They're all under the enforcement arm of the post office. They're run out of Bern, Switzerland. That's who we are currently involved with.
Switzerland.
Berns, yeah.
Yes.
B-E-R-N-S,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Switzerland, I'm sorry. They basically run all the contracting in the world globally, because you have to have a bill of lading on every law document in order to be authorized. If you receive something from the court and it does not have a stamp on it, it's not something you have to take seriously.
It must have process.
It must have process.
Yes.
But you do, if it says to show up in court, you must go to court and never vacate your nom de guerre estate. You must show them the errors. I'm here to safeguard the court. There's some Your Honor, Gordon can tell you a lot.
Yeah, I can tell you one of these.
On this is
Yeah.
when we go to court, Your Honor, there are some procedural things that I have questions on. And you break down the procedures on the bills of ladings if there's no stamps on it. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, it does a bit. I'd like to see some more literature on that. If you can point that out later on towards the end of your talk and
Sure,
stuff. And
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks.
you can find a lot of that information on the internet. What happens is the Universal Postal Union, through the Viennas of treaties, where the nations come together and agree on standards. as how contracts and these things are going to be done between nations globally. And this is the mechanism that they use for that. The procedures that we're working with take you to that level so that if you can, so for instance, okay, you've got your Canadian flag. If you can learn the procedural process that the treaties of Vienna spell out, and you incorporate those with your paperwork, you then can put your flag on your document and you can contract in any court in the world. And for instance, this would be an example. Now, say you have a divorce, something that maybe people are pretty knowledgeable with. You go to court and the court issues a ruling that you're divorced. Well, you're not only divorced here in this province, you're divorced in all of Canada. Not only are you divorced in all of Canada, you're divorced in every other country in the world, which tells you that the courts are uniform procedurally globally. The mechanism used is like treaties of Vienna, where you have pretty much a standardized procedure globally for contract. All the flags are is an advertisement for contract from where you are. You can claim, say, for instance, a Title IV U.S., the U.S. flag, the Unity States flag, which has been copy claimed now at the UN in this position, the Unity-States of the America.
League of Nations.
At the League of Nations, at the UN. It's
The
recognized
Canadian
for contract.
flag does need copy claimed for anybody who wants to do that.
Yes.
Because they're in a bankrupt corporation, the sovereign of Canada can copy claim that and file it at the League of Nations. And when you come to court, the marshals will actually tell you, how did you get the flag? We no longer have the flag. And we've had this conversation with our fiction United States Marshals when they would come up to me and they approached Gordon and myself. As we were filing some documents and walking out of the clerk's office, they said, "Mr. Gould, Mr. Gunch, would you come over here?" And these are military people. These are people that are ex-military.
These are sharp people.
Sharp people. And they said, "We're kind of disturbed here in our fiction." I said, "Well, yeah, you have good reason to be. We no longer have a flag of the United States of America." And I said, "Well, yeah, I know. You guys come out of bankruptcy November 2nd. You guys are all liable. You're running around the planet, no authorization, no authority whatsoever. But good news, I'm here to give you that authority. I'm here to safeguard everybody because I want everybody to be accountable." And so when President Bush, the hocus-pocus election goes on, of course, and there's nothing to be president of. Pre actually means no. SI comes from simulation, and D comes from denture. So you have a no simulation denture running around
pre-simulation
running around the planet. But we're giving him authorization, and that's the truth.
Yeah. See, the marshals asked us, "How did you get the flag?" How did you get the flag? We don't have one. See, we copy claimed that Title IV flag, which is flown at our post offices, which is an advertisement for contract. That's why the flag here in Canada, I would presume.
Yeah, it was flying.
Got to
at
be
the
careful
court.
there.
Yes.
That the Canadian flag is flying at the post office. Is that the case? Okay.
It was at
So
the
that is an
courts, too.
advertisement for contract. Okay. So when you place a flag on your documents, now you are coming in compliance for contract. That's why flags are significant. In the U.S., I'm going to give you an example. In the U.S., most of the time we'll have a Title IV flag that has fringe on it. And then most likely they'll probably have the gold eagle on the standard. The eagle that's on the standard takes precedence over the flag. But the gold on that Title IV flag, which has specific dimensions, is a desecration of the flag. The reason they do that is it suspends the procedure. The thing is do you know that? And are you willing to claim it? And then secondly, maybe on another level, you'll probably have, in our state, we'll have the state of Wyoming, which is a blue flag, and that'll have gold fringe on it, but incidentally now the spear is on the top of the standard of that one, on that specific plane. And then the one court that I came into, we had a third plane where the judge was on, and this is real interesting, there wasn't a flag on her plane. Now this judge was real sharp. She knew what she was doing. This was a woman. And I had a problem. The state was kind of on my case because I'm kind of not necessarily a radical, but I'm not real well loved by them because I call them on some of the things they do. And I came in with my Title IV flag on my person, my body being the vessel, okay, which is carrying my cargo, which is thinking, okay. I asked the court, I have a few procedural questions. And in my specific case, I was listed as a defendant. The state was on the document, but nowhere on the document was there a plaintiff listed. And I says, Your Honor, could you explain to me how I can be a defendant without the plaintiff being identified on the document? I says, I would claim that the defendant be struck from the record. She agreed. Wow. And then before I even stepped into the well of the court, I identified myself in the noun with the Title IV. And some of the courts, the way they're laid out, the way this one is specifically laid out is there's like a little box when you enter the gates going into the well of the court, and I stopped right there. It's like getting on a ship. That would be considered the quarterdeck. So I stopped in that little position where I'm isolated and again identified myself before I proceeded within the well of the court. And so she knew that I was claiming a Title IV contract with my flag. And then I proceeded and I says, well, I have a few questions on the language. Incidentally, this judge says, let's not quibble about the language because she didn't want to expose the secret. She says, Mr. Gunch, would you please come up here and I'll swear you in. And what she did is she took me up to her plane and joined with my contract in that highest position of honor, which is where the Title IV flag belongs. And we ran a little game up there, just me and the judge. Nobody else knew what was going on. And that's all who had to know. The attorney didn't have a clue that I was just smacking the snot out of him. She asked me, this actually had to do with Russell's case. I mean, the attorney violated all the rules of continuance evidence. I just let him go. I figured he cleaned my closet from the time I was born till the time I showed up in court. I says, that's fine. I says, it'll just show him how much authority he's got, which is none. And so the judge asked me a question.